else in excess of that. So for those reasons, and out of an abundance of safety for our students, faculty, staff, all of our employees, we want to make sure that we keep everybody safe, and we are moving to the remote learning for tomorrow. Just want to remind parents, you should have received that Connect Ed message that just reminds students they are to follow the regular schedule tomorrow, or complete the work that may have been sent home. There may be some real young students who may not be yet assigned a device or ready to be able to sign on to those devices, so they may have sent home some work there. So just for everybody's safety, we will be in remote learning mode tomorrow, and we do plan on, and we're canceling all extracurricular activities, all after-school activities as well, but we do plan at this point in time to resume regular schedule on Wednesday. So just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that change in our schedule for tomorrow. So at this time, I've asked Tracy Fox and Keith Seifert to bring up to speed on some modifications and changes we made to our schedule and to our mitigation protocols, primarily addressing contact tracing in alignment with some of the CDC guidance. So Ms. Fox?
Good evening. Tracy Fox, Director of Risk Management. Can you hear me okay in the mask? Awesome. Okay. From the onset of the pandemic, we have implemented layered strategies for mitigation to reduce the spread of COVID-19, as well as to continue operations in our buildings. We recently updated our definition of contact tracing. As you may remember, contact tracing was identified as within 6 feet for 15 minutes or longer. But however, per CDC, that has been updated to within 3 feet for 15 minutes or longer. So with mask worn, yes, that's an important component of it. It's only if there is universal masking, which our district did choose to do from the onset of the beginning of the school year.
And again, this does not mean that we're reducing anything we've done in the past as far as distance. I want to make sure that clarification is there. This is only for contact tracing, which allows students that are beyond 3 feet to remain in class should they need to be quarantined. It's only for 3 feet or less. So that allows us to have more students in class going forward, so it has nothing to do with reducing safety measures at all from 6 feet to 3. It's simply a matter of contact tracing for the purposes of allowing more students to be able to stay in school based on the newest updated guidance.
Correct. And just to also just tell you as well is that it's only applicable, and I apologize, it's so hard to talk in this, it only applies to students. It does not apply to adults. 6 feet still applies in the definition for our educators. Okay. I also wanted just to briefly go over the vaccination and our quarantine guidance. So those individuals who are identified as close contact who are vaccinated, they do not have to quarantine. Again, this is through the Department of Public Health and the CDC. Also, any student that has tested positive within the last 90 days, that's always important to know as well, that if they have tested positive in the last 90 days, they also do not have to quarantine. We still want any individual who has had direct contact with someone who's positive to monitor their symptoms for 14 days, wear their masks while they're on MCSD property, and then also it is recommended that they consider getting tested 3 to 5 days after the exposure. Any student or staff member who is not vaccinated, quarantine is required. And as stated in our previous presentation, anyone who is identified as a close contact, they may choose to get testing. It's optional. If they choose to get testing, they can get tested on day 5 after their exposure, and then wait full 7 days, and then return on day 8. If they choose not to get tested, it's a full 10 days. And again, they must monitor their symptoms for a full 14 days and wear a mask again on MCSD property. And then also, again, all parents will be contacted by letter as well as a phone call. I think one of the things just to emphasize in this, it is a process, of making, doing the direct contact of contact tracing, pulling students in, making phone calls, and then getting the letters. So it does take a little time just to get all that out to our parents.
Ms. Fox,
Yes,
what is the youngest child that can be vaccinated, youngest age?
So currently it's 12 and up, yes, and that's with the Pfizer. Mm-hmm. All right, and Keith's going to go over the learning for students who are out under quarantine.
Ms. Fox, just one quick thing. I know, and I think I'd mentioned it before, I think it would be good for the board to see a copy of that letter that goes out to parents, because I'm sure we will get some questions.
Absolutely, not a problem.
Good evening, Keith Seifert, Chief Academic Officer for the school district. I am going to go over some brief information regarding students that do go out in quarantine. This information has been added to the letter that's associated with being quarantined. As stated in previous board meetings, we are doing, our main focus is communication through our Canvas pages. As you're well aware, that we went through Canvas as our learning management system over the course of this last year. A great majority of our teachers have established our Canvas pages, and that's where all our content that will be delivered to our students is located. So these bullet points that we're trying to address and just create a little bit more clarity on what students and parents are to be expected with, that's located on the Canvas page, and as far as student learning. At first, we want to make sure that they have the student and the parents have connected their learning, their devices and apps through the Canvas page. So those students, if they do not have access to their Canvas pages, they can certainly get access. They will need to contact their school or their teacher to make sure that they have those pairing codes to make sure they do have access. And most of our kids do. All communication should be going through our Canvas pages. So any communication that the teachers are providing, we're trying to create one source so they can create that opportunity for them to communicate through that one source. That doesn't mean that we can't communicate in other ways, through email, through phone calls, but all of it is done through, we want to do through the Canvas pages. There is opportunities to check for calendars of events through our Canvas pages. We expect those to be updated by our teachers. All lessons, videos, and activities, due dates, all can be accessible through our Canvas pages. Students will, during this time frame, students will be expected to complete all their assignments and as required by those due dates, those can be turned in through their Canvas pages as well. Absences due to quarantine are considered excused, so they do have access to make up that work. Of course, we want to make sure that they're keeping up with their work during that time frame. We don't want them to get behind, so it's very important that they have access to those Canvas pages to see those assignments.
Are they being instructed in this letter or whatever that excused doesn't mean non-engaged, that they have to engage?
That's correct. And in that, students will be expected to complete all assignments and meet required due dates. It states up in the initial, all this information is in the actual letter itself. Students should be actively engaged in their learning, so it is being communicated. Teachers, they may be able to do Zoom sessions during this time frame. They can hold office hours after school if they choose to do that. They can provide short recorded direct instruction sessions. That's not uncommon. A lot of our teachers do that anyway. And then we also included that brain fuse information we talked about at the last board meeting. I put that information in there as well, so they have access to that as well. Okay.
Just want to remind everybody, we at your direction, we are not offering concurrent teaching, so I want to make sure everybody understands we're not doing the concurrent model where kids can stay home and have in-person instruction being taught concurrently with the virtual. The other thing I want to make sure everybody understands, there are some people who don't understand, and I want to make sure they understand this as well, don't understand that we cannot offer a separate virtual school totally at this point, because like most districts I know, about 2/3, the last study I saw, 2/3 of school districts are experiencing a teacher shortage. And we simply don't have enough teachers to teach in person and a separate virtual school at this time. We hope to be able to do that in the future, but given what we were directed by the board of not offering the concurrent teaching, this is our option for allowing us to still have some contact with the teachers by way of Zoom or recorded lessons or whatever, based on the teacher's ability to do that and provide that instruction for the students directly.
And just
Dr. Lewis, this is Kia Chambers. I have a quick question for Ms. Fox, if I can.
Go ahead.
absolutely, go ahead.
Okay. If we have a student that is quarantined, and you said they can be tested, and if they receive a negative test, they can return back to school on day 8?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's 7 full days after the exposure. So technically it'd be day 8 after their original exposure. But testing on day 5, correct, after the exposure.
And there's a specific type of test, right?
They should wait until day 5 in order to take the test, and
Correct.
then if it's negative, they can return back to school on day 8.
Correct, and that's the
That's
key.
correct.
That's the key word, negative.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
These are calendar days. Some people get confused and think they mean school days. These
Right.
are legitimate calendar
Yes.
days. So it should only be 5 days of school if they have a negative
Right.
test.
Yep.
That's a great point. Great point. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Very good. And just a couple of last reminders to our families is just if you have a student that is sick, please stay home, contact the school, and we'll give you further directions on what to do to return back into the building. Secondly, if they are sent home for quarantine, there's no after-school activities, no football. That applies to after-school activities as well. And then also, if a child is waiting on a test, do not come to school until you receive the results of the test. So, and thank you again for your time.
One question before you go.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as, we are a large district. And how are you centralizing that communication from the schools so they won't have to wait until someone calls them back or the phone is ringing because you're just one person? So how are we centralizing receiving this information if a parent notifies the school that there has been an exposure or an infection, and because we have 56 buildings, you can have multiple occurrences of that, and so some kind of messaging or some kind of process so that every call is answered timely, so we can get the instructions out and be consistent with how we're delivering our next steps.
So each school has a COVID liaison. I meet with those teams every Friday, so we can update on any updated guidance, answer questions, concerns, we have a great relationship with our community, great relationship with our Department of Public Health, so we'll sometimes bring them in to help answer questions. But all questions and comments should be directed towards our school's COVID liaison, and they can answer any of the questions probably just as well as I can, just because we've been in it together since the onset of the pandemic.
And I mean the reporting of
the reporting,
incident. So when you say each school has a liaison, so we have 56 liaisons?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And so the schools will report their cases to that liaison?
yes.
Are they housed at the school?
Yes. Yeah, they do send up, per state law, they do have to report those positive cases to the Department of Public Health and also do contact tracing. They will send those reports either directly to the Department of Public Health or myself or Jeannie Paul Hamas, our lead nurse, and then we will report those up. And then we also complete our weekly reports for the state, which is also what you see on our Friday website.
Thank you.
I have a question. Dr. Lewis and Ms. Fox, you might want to stay. How are we handling the universal masking rule on our property with extracurricular and after-school activities, especially like sports, band, things like that?
Outdoors are not required. The masks are only required, universal masking is only required indoors. They're not required outdoors. And I do want to ask everyone's help too. Please, if your children are showing symptoms other than the typical allergies or things of that nature, please keep them home. We need your assistance. When you send a child to school and they're symptomatic, then it just, once again, puts other people at risk and creates quite a problem in terms of exposure, contact tracing, sending students home for quarantine that might not be necessary otherwise. So just help us with that. Check your children for any symptoms beyond what they typically would have, and you all know the ones that they typically have as far as a sore throat or a sneeze or a cough or something like that might be typical of allergies or things they typically have. So that's really important. And just everyone, we're all in this together. We all got to work together and collaborate and be cooperative and be very patient and flexible. People are working tirelessly every day. We're shifting resources, and we just are so thankful for those people who understand that and are working with us to try and make sure we continue in-person learning, because again, the in-person learning, we now know from research studies have been done already, the critical nature of having students in front of our teachers. We saw last year, yes, there are some students who can work virtually very effectively, but the vast majority socially, emotionally, developmentally, academically need to be in school and with teachers. And we're working very hard to try and keep our schools open and functioning. But I do want to stress this one other point. We talk a lot about, yes, my kid may not be showing symptoms, or somebody. When we have to go through this contact tracing, we have to quarantine people according to the guidance and the guidelines we have. We still have to function as a school. If I lose bus drivers, if I have culinary technicians who are not serving the food, if we have too many teachers out, we cannot function and operationalize our system. So that's why it's so imperative that we all work collaboratively and try and work together to ensure that we can keep our schools open, because we know that schools, just as the CDC and others recognize, schools are an integral part of our community, of our economy, and all those things are so critically important to keep schools open. So help us to do that. We want to do it safely, but we have to do it collaboratively. So that's all I can ask. And the last thing, I'll just continually, I know the mayor, myself, and others, all of our health professionals are encouraging, please, if you have not been vaccinated yet, talk with your health provider to see if that's something that you can do and your family can do, because the best way we can surround our children is with vaccinated adults if they're able to. So that's critically important, and just want to encourage everyone to at least have the conversation with your medical providers to help us try and prevent or at least reduce the spread of the virus. Thank you.
I have one question not really a question for Keith. Could you send that information, all those options that those quarantine kids have? Dr. Lewis, you told me, but I like
Sure,
that.
and we'll post this on our website tomorrow.
Okay.
It'll be on the letters.
Yeah, but we're going to send you all the letter. We'll send you the PowerPoint, and then we will post the PowerPoint.
You gonna send it to us?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, that's it. Thank you so much for the update. We do need to motion to approve the agenda, but I do want to ask, and we know that Ms. Chambers is on the conference call, and want to ask for a motion to excuse Ms. Tillery.
Second.
All right, motion by Ms. Williams, second by Ms. Buckner. All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers. All right, that passes. 1.04, need a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Jackson, second by Ms. Chambers. Hand vote. All in favor? Raise your hand, please.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Next, we're in 2.01, our system-wide recognitions. And while Ms. Thomas is coming, I need to welcome all of our guests. I see administrators out there. If you would just wave our hands. We have our partners from the library, Mr. Harkness, and the museum. We're all in mask. All right, Miss Marianne Rickner is in the back. And I see our MEEF representation with Marquette McKnight.
Derek Mann.
And Derek Mann. So we're all looking like superheroes in disguise, so I appreciate all of the assistance. the superheroes over here. Ms. Thomas, go right ahead. System-wide recognition.
Good evening. My name is Victoria Thomas, and I'm the Director of Career Technical and Agricultural Education. Previously, the board had requested to receive more information about certifications being awarded to students in our district, and it's my pleasure to bring forward this recognition for students who have done just that. So if the students that participated in the Mayor's Summer Youth Program would come forward and kind of line up in this area in front of the board while I read this statement. During the summer of 2021, 14 students, 13 from Muscogee County High Schools, had the opportunity to complete nationally recognized professional certifications and work for the Columbus Consolidated Government through the Mayor's Summer Youth Program. The program started on June 14th and ended on July 29th. Students attended certification classes at Columbus Technical College and reported to their assigned job sites at the Columbus Consolidated Government Center in various departments. The wages for these students was $10 per hour, which was funded by the City of Columbus, and the certification programs at Columbus Technical College were funded by the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Development Board. The credentials earned by the students were Certified Logistic Associate Technician and Certified Custodian Technician. 3 of those 13 students that participated are in front of you today, and I would just like for each one of them to give their name, their school, and the certificate or credentials that you earned this summer. Go ahead.
Start with you at the mic.
My name is Zion Hodge, and I go to Kendra High School.
Is it on?
It's not, I don't know.
It's, the green button's on. You just have to speak up and speak into it.
My name is Zion Hodge, and I go to Kendra High School.
And what certification or credentials did you earn?
I don't remember.
Sir?
I don't remember.
Okay, you pass the microphone.
Next.
My name is Adriana Carrion. I go to Jordan Vocational High School. I had received my Certified Logistics Associate, Technician, Custodial Services, and CPR, basic CPR.
My name is Destiny Spellers. I go to Hardaway High School, and I got my CPR and participation credentials.
Very good.
All right. I believe we have some members some representatives from Columbus Technical College who are with us, if they would just stand. And also any supporters of the program, principals, the CTA supervisors. I'm not sure if Mr. Vinson is here from Jordan. Just wave your hands. Any parents? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you all. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And our second recognition that we like to bring forward is our partnership with the Columbus Fire and EMS Department. If I can have the 2 cadets come forward while I read this statement. And also, I'd like to be joined by Chief Sal Scarpa, who would like to say a few words as well. The Columbus Fire Department and EMS and CTAE, or Muscogee County CTAE, established the Pipeline EMT program at Shaw High School in the year 2020. As a result of this partnership, the Columbus Fire Department provided incredible support for that program that included mentoring, training, and clinical agreement for the required ambulance ride-along for those EMT students. Additionally, the Columbus Fire Department has been instrumental in the development of our new firefighting pathway at Northside High School. But in addition to that, from February to May of last school year, the fire department participated in conducting interest interviews and orientations of each school's graduating seniors who had an interest in a career as a firefighter or EMT. Students wishing to participate in the mentorship program began working out with the fire department on Saturdays in preparation to take the grueling combat challenge. More than 25 students from nearly every high school participated in this activity to compete for a position as a firefighter with a starting salary of approximately $40,000 per year. In July, the Columbus Fire Department, and EMS Department offered 2 Muscogee County 2021 graduates the position of firefighter cadets. And I would have those 2 students graduates, cadets, to give us their name and their school.
Hello. Hi, my name is Aiden Austin, and I am from Northside High School.
My name is, y'all hear me? All right. My name is Elijah Outlaw, and I graduated from Shaw High School.
Are there any family members or the school representatives that are here to wave your hand? And I'd like to turn the floor over now to Chief Salscarper to say a few words about the partnership as well.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, esteemed colleagues and guests, my name is Sal Scarpa. I'm the Fire and EMS Chief here in Columbus, Georgia. I'm also the Emergency Management Director for this County of Muscogee, so I greatly appreciate you taking the opportunity to leave your children at home tomorrow. That takes a burden off of us so we can use our resources elsewhere. I just want to say I only have like four pages and about 32 slides to share with you, so it won't take that long. Seriously, I just want to say thank you and give a special recognition to Dr. Thomas and Ms. Cherie Tovey for the partnership that we have been able to enter into with the Muscogee County School District. The representatives that you saw here today, these two students, former students from the school district, are the tip of the iceberg for us. We have some more students in the pipeline that we intend to or hope to be able to hire in January, and then we're looking to hire additional students as the years go on. The partnership that we've created is a collaborative and innovative program. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, a couple of weeks ago giving a presentation to the International Association of Fire Chiefs, which is representative of fire chiefs from all around the world. And in that program, I highlighted the partnership program that we have and the workforce development initiative that we have with our school district. I've subsequently received numerous inquiries from around the country from a lot of the initiatives and programs that we've been able to put in place. They are now being replicated across the country. So that's a direct result of the partnership that we have with our partners here at the school district. We have with me today my Assistant Chief, Tim Smith, my Operations Chief, Daniel Horde, and representatives from Engine Company number 9 with us today. These are all members who are integral and important in making this partnership successful. We have only, again, just scratched the surface of this. Every time we meet, we develop new opportunities and new ideas and new initiatives. And none of these things cost anybody any money. It costs us a lot of time, investment in our personnel, and in resources and in our community. But the goal for us at Columbus Fire and EMS is to bring students from your school system into our organization as employees. And these two students represent the first, I hope, of many. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I do want to thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you, Chief. That is truly an amazing and awesome partnership, and we thank you all for the service that you do. And this opportunity is hopefully endless. And, you know, thanks to Ms. Thomas and all of the effort that she put into our career technology programming here at the school system, and to enjoy the great partnership with other industries as we do with Columbus Fire and EMS.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our recognitions.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. All right. We have a presentation. No, I'm sorry, public agenda. 3.01, public agenda. Mr. Broadwater, who I do not see, was here last week, and Mike Miller. Mr. Miller. All right, while you're coming, I'll read our disclaimer here. All official meetings of the board shall be open and to the press and the public. However, the board may meet in executive session. Citizens are encouraged to address items on the board agenda or to initiate presentations of issues appropriate to the school board for consideration. The board meeting is not the appropriate place to review individual employee performance or individual parent complaints that have not been addressed by the principal or superintendent. Citizens are encouraged to follow normal channels to address such problems, which is with the superintendent's office through our executive assistant, Ms. Karen Jones. Mr. Miller, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mike Miller, 1544 Wells Drive, Columbus, Georgia. I did have a PowerPoint presentation that would have made it a little easier. But I wanted to speak to the American Rescue Plan, the way the funds are being allocated. But first, I think over the past 18 months, the board, the employees of the school district have done an amazing job with the students and all the challenges that occurred last year. Flip through these. So when we look at the use of funds, I know a lot of it was going towards summer learning, which sounded like a great program, and then PPE. I think we need to do more as far as mitigation measures to support the teachers and the staff in the district. I would hope that they would be able to spend more time with the students and not have to worry so much about the safety precautions, knowing that, you know, we're taking care of them. And since we received a large amount of money, I'd like to see it allocated in different places. So 4 areas that I thought you might want to consider is providing high-performance masks for teachers and employees, be it N95s, KN95s, or KF94s. It's going to reduce the amount of virus coming out if they're sick. It's also going to reduce the inhalation dose. With the shortage of employees, you know, the bus drivers, the teachers, if we can do everything possible to keep them safe, I think that's going to go a long way as far as retention of employees. The second thing would be CO2 monitors in classrooms. A lot of countries are using these. They're not 100%, but it gives you an estimate on the amount of fresh air being brought into a room. Generally, you want to be below 800. Currently in here, it's 1,500. So that means the air exchange rates should be increased, or a window opened, or a HEPA filter installed. The third thing would be a rapid antigen test to be provided to employees. I think it would give them a sense of security, knowing that they're going home to their families, and I just think it's the right thing to do. And have them available voluntarily if they want to take one. And then the HEPA filter units. Recommendations are for 2 in a classroom. Now I know the ventilation system's been checked, and the district says they're getting 5 to 6 air changes an hour, but they're using MERV 9 filters, which ASHRAE recommends MERV 13, and just because you're getting air exchange rates doesn't necessarily mean you're bringing in enough fresh air. So that would be the 4th. And then had the PowerPoint presentation pulled up. There is a cost-effective, I don't know if you can see this, it's a Corsi air box. It's basically put together with 5 MERV filters and a box fan. And you can make them for $100, and they're filtering through 5 MERV 13 filters, which is going to pull the virus out of the air. And then, I know my time is up. I'll just finish with this. The Columbus community should realize that the success economically, socially, and educationally is closely tied to a thriving public education system.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. We appreciate that. And thank you for emphasizing the point of wearing the mask, and I thank everybody for cooperating with us and honoring our request to wear your mask and keep them on while you're in our buildings.
All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just, and I may be off, when he was giving information on filtering, is there any way he can make sure that make sure we are intact with all that, you know?
Do you, Mr. Goldberg, do you want to review real quickly our exchange and filtration system?
He was correct of what we're reporting as our air exchange is. We do use MERV 9 filters. MERV 13 filters have not been proven to catch the COVID. COVID is a two-particle variant, and MERV 13 filters don't capture a two-part variant. So our MERV 9s work just as well as MERV 13. Also, our equipment is not equipped. The motors in our equipment, in our HVAC equipment, is not equipped for MERV 13 filters. We'd have to crank up the power and the speed of our equipment, and it is our colleagues around the state have shown that if you crank those things up and put in a heavier filter in there, it burns up the systems, the HVAC systems. Our systems are not meant or made to have MERV 13s in them. It puts an extra strain on ours. So we feel very confident in what we're doing. So we feel like we're good.
Thank you. I was just trying to make sure we emphasize what we were doing and that we were taking the mitigation steps and process to keep everyone as safe as we possibly can. All right. Moving into a presentation 4.01, Georgia Milestones Results. Dr. Knopf.
Good evening, y'all. Patrick Knopf, Director of Research Accountability and Assessment. So it has been a while since we've done this. I just want to preface this with, it has been a while and a lot of things have changed, as we well know. What I hope to do this evening is at least give you some context for the results that we do have, what it can help us see, and kind of what we're going to do next. So just to give you a little bit of background, when all of this started with the pandemic, when we went out pretty early on, the state had requested and along with other states, received a waiver back in 2020 to not to administer state assessments. We followed up in the fall, the state did again, once we began school for the 2021 school year. They requested a waiver again, and actually requested it a couple times, but were denied. And so because of that, they responded by basically offering additional flexibility to districts. One of the options would have been to actually administer tests in the fall from the prior year. They gave us flexibility in the windows, how we scheduled it, allowing for smaller groups of students to come in and test. But they gave us a lot of flexibility with that. But in addition to that, we were also instructed to use that flexibility to also, if we had a waiver with a state waiver, that we would not use it for promotion retention, and also that we would not require virtual students to come into the building solely for the purpose of testing. That actually came from the feds, and the state passed that on as well. So given all of those things, if you remember, I updated you guys last spring when we had to make some adjustments to our plan just because of the new guidance that we got. It looked like we were not going to have a large number of students coming in from the virtual environment to test, and that was what that was born out of. So a couple things also, reliability and comparability. When you look at the results, we are not comparing them to, as we have in the past, where we would do a year-over-year comparison or a cohort comparison or even looking at our comparison districts, because, again, the guidance we got from Gbia was that really all of this should be interpreted in the context of the pandemic. Because the tests were designed assuming that, we've had high participation rates, around 98, 99% of our students take the assessment. And so the assumption is that students are sitting in class all year, getting a full year of instruction, and then they go in to take the test. And that is clearly not what happened this year, or this past year. So we really have avoided, doing comparisons year over year. And in talking about, because people want to compare. I mean, we want to see how we did with other districts, how we did with the state. And I liken that to the idea that if we tested half of this room and then said that result that we got is reflective of the abilities of the room, that clearly is not the case. And in some cases, it would be we would only test the back row. So if we look at what some districts did and what the state did as a whole, it's really very difficult to draw any comparisons, whether it's year to year, district to district, school to school, even cohort to cohort. So again, Godot has said to us they're not going to use it for accountability measures. We're not actually going to get a CCRPI score from the 2021 data that we had. In the past, they used that to identify comprehensive support and targeted support schools. And also, the growth scores were used for teacher evaluations. None of that is on the table this year based on these results. So what I have is, and what I've shared with you here is, I want to give you some context for the percentage of students that actually took the test statewide and for the grade level and subject. One of the things you'll notice is as we go up in years, the number of students that took the test overall decreases. And again, also, the board also, the state board passed the rule that the end of course would not count for 20% of a student's final grade. So that also had a large part in many students not taking the end of course exams, just because there was not really any incentive for them to do that. But you can see here, we were pretty closely matched with the state on this. We were at 77% and they were at 79%. And if you look at the performance, you can see, again, our reading levels. I know this is going to be a lot to digest, but again, I just want to remind everyone that, again, this is not necessarily reflective of all the students testing. And another question that I get frequently is, who tested? Was it our high performers? Was it our low performers? And the only answer I can give you is yes. It was all the above, and it just depends on where they were and what school they were in. But the reading levels, you can see, were at 51.8%. Our developing and above was at 51.3%, and our proficient above was at 28%, and that's for ELA. And for math, we were proficient and above at a 23.9%.
I had a clarification question. I mean, didn't most of our in-person students, they pretty much had to take it, right?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, well, honestly, we had a number of them that opted out as well, and opted out by basically staying home the week of testing. So we did have some of our in-person students who did not take the test. Okay,
but to get, I mean, I guess, and we'll see it more in high school, but to say, I mean, if we had 77% come in, then we must have had a good bit of virtual if some of our
in elementary school we did. We had a fair number of virtual, but again, with elementary, remember, we're dealing with three grades, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. But we did have a fair amount of virtual students come in for elementary. And again, when we got to middle and high school, though, it was offset by a number of in-person students who also didn't come in to test. So the overall percentage for the district was 55%. Which is somewhat reflective of the amount of students we had out in virtual, but it's not safe to assume that that was all in-person kids and not virtual kids, as evidenced by the fact that you can see a large portion.
Yeah, I had high school students, and they took the test, but they told me frequently that in-person people were not taking it.
Yeah, so no,
and
I'm glad you raised that, because that's true. And like I said, you can see it with our elementary numbers, with the large number of kids that came in, and then it's like, well, if it's 77% here, why is it only 30-something in the high school? And that's why a lot of students just stayed home and didn't want to take it.
One more question for clarity. What does, when you say developing and above, does that mean developing and proficient?
Developing, proficient, and distinguished all together. Yes, ma'am.
Now, what I'm trying to figure out is what can you get from that? Because usually there are 4 categories. Mm-hmm. So when you say developing and above, they're overlapping, and you go to the next category, develop proficient and above. Okay, so why didn't you do the regular categories like below level, developing, proficient, and then advanced, so that you can get a better idea of actually what you have?
And we do.
Because see, you got it overlapping. You have the developing and above, that's overlapping. And then you got proficient.
And
You're reporting proficient twice.
well, yes and no, but I understand what you're saying. When the state publishes it, though, when they're looking at developing and above, they're looking at developing students are those students who are considered able to go on to the next grade level with some support. So what you're really looking at is a continuum of students who are ready to go on to the next grade level, and the state actually does a combined calculation as well. I'll send out the other. I'm not trying to obfuscate anything with the numbers. It's just, we were just trying to look at the number of students based on the results that we had that were essentially prepared to go on to the next level.
Oh, you're doing it just for, what now? Because my thing is that I kind of want to see where we were, in terms of how the percentage of those below level and the percentage of developing, which is not the same thing as proficient. Proficient people are proficient. And then the proficient as opposed to the advanced. But I see so you're saying the reporting you're doing here is reporting for how y'all determine how to assign students or something? I'm just trying to figure out why.
Just in terms of readiness.
In terms of
readiness based on the results that we got. But again, the main takeaway for these results really is at the student level, and that's one of the things that we've encouraged the schools to look at. In fact, we took prior score histories and appended those to these most recent scores to send on to the middle schools, to send on to the high schools, so that they could look and see, because again, this is really largely needs to be viewed at the student level.
Now, do you have these in the way that the state, in the correct or the actual reporting way? Have you done these with the actual way that test scores are reported, with the below level, developing?
Yes.
Proficient, okay.
We have that. This was, yes.
I can see that.
Yeah, this was just really just, again, okay. Like I said, I mean, we're looking at the 30,000-foot view, but again, with a lot of context. So we really were just trying to look at it in a way that shows, okay, the level of readiness for students.
Level of readiness, okay,
yeah.
That's what you're doing. Okay, and then you said I can come and see that later in your office or something.
And I will gladly share that. We do have that. And again, the developing and above is something that the state also publishes. That's where we got that from. We didn't calculate that. That's what they...
Well, we do. I mean, I understand when, because I got my pencil out to add the developing.
Yeah.
And I was going to do it that way, but then I looked at another category.
Okay. Well, if you've got a pencil and you want to add, I've got an office that we can, you can welcome upstairs, and we could use all the help we can get. So, okay, so percent students tested, you can see for fourth grade, again, fairly comparable with the state. And again, you can see here, the reading and above, it's pretty closely matches the states in this case, developing and above and proficient above for ELA. And again, you can see math. And again, you can see the differences with the math. And then that was something that I read an article today that a researcher had predicted that math scores in general were probably largely going to suffer nationwide, and that we would see more of a drop there in general, just across the country in terms of math. Fifth graders, if you remember, are the only grade that take the additional science test now, because remember we reduced the amount of testing we had. So again, you can see the numbers for ELA, math, and science, which was what the fifth graders added on. And then there's the results for that as well. Again, our reading on grade level or above was a little bit higher than the other two, with 62%. Also, just again, looking at that math proficiency in fifth grade. But again, I say that and I point it out, but I still want to caution that we really need to look at this at the individual student level. Going on to middle school, again, you can see those participation rates starting to drop. They're starting to drop in the state, and they're starting to drop here locally. I know, Ms. McCrae, you said you had a high schooler, I had a middle schooler that was an 8th grader that had to take, 6 tests, and he was not happy. If you look at 6th grade, again, reading in the grade level, reading on grade level or above was 46.9, and the state came in at 58.3. You can see again with our proficiency levels for ELA is at 30.5%, and for math, again, you can see the 15% compared to the state 30%. Okay, again, more drops in the participation rate as we get to 7th grade. And again, the reading levels, 55.2%. Our proficient and above was at a 29.7% for ELA, and then our proficient above for math is at 21.6%. And the 8th grade. And again, they take 4 tests, and in some cases for 8th graders, they actually take an additional test if they're in the high school course for algebra. But again, that you really start to see the participation rates drop off now. And you can see we're down in the 40s for ELA, math, science, and for social studies. Here are those performance levels. And they actually shortened the test this year as well. So the science and social studies tests were actually fairly short. They weren't as long as they have been in the past, and they took about 20 to 30 minutes to complete. So because of that, obviously with fewer questions, there's less of an opportunity to actually show what you know. But those were considerably briefer tests. And now we're getting into the high school. So for high schoolers, they take the American Lit composition, and now you can see again the participation rate's 36% as compared to the state's 58%. And you can see the reading levels, 43.7, and the proficient and above is at 23. But again, the state you can see is at 29. So it's really hard to tell who came in and tested, if any, if any did. There's a lot of them that didn't. Algebra 1, a little bit better, but again, Algebra 1 has the 8th graders in there as well. So it got a bit of a bump just from the enthusiastic 8th graders that came in to take the Algebra 1. And again, you can see the proficiency levels there, and the difference between the state, 30.2, and MCSD at 18.4. Physical science, this was actually an EOC, but it was only given to 8th graders. The assessment for high school has been retired. So you can see we had 54% of our kids come back to take it, and the proficiency levels actually look better than the state, which is good. All right, biology. Again, 59% participate, or 59 at the state, and 44% of ours participated. And you can see the difference there between the proficiencies, 34.3 and a 40.7 for the state. And U.S. history is the last one, and again, 31%. And you can see the difference in the proficiency levels there, 29.6 and 16.2. So questions?
So, you know, looking through it, the gap seems to be bigger in the math area between, so I assume we are looking at that hard and how to address that.
Yeah.
And I would still like to see the information comparing us to our cohorts, like that we typically see. I mean, it can be sent to me, sent to us.
Sure.
We don't have to go over it in a meeting, but I would still be curious to see our performance based on similar districts.
Off the top of my head, I think we perform better in many of the areas with our comparable districts. But again, I saw some districts with as low as 3% of students tested. So when you're dealing with such small numbers, it makes it really hard. Yeah, it makes it hard. But I mean, I can show, and you, I mean, you can look at the numbers and get the context for it. But I just, again, I'm reticent to put anything up that would compare us with anyone, because it's just really not a fair comparison. There were so many different models out there this last year, and with so many people really having the choice to come in and take it or not, it just really is not reflective. At an individual student level, it is, and I think as a parent, I would say to all of our parents and teachers, look at the prior score histories, look at that individual student report, and make a determination based on that as to whether or not your student put effort into it, you know, or it's something that we need to look at very closely, because you know the year they had.
Yeah.
So just to put a point on some of this real quickly, our country spent billions of dollars last year in testing for results that we knew were not going to be valid, but we were required to do it because of the federal requirement. So we did that, and we now have the results, which are not valid or comparable or reliable for any kind of comparison purposes. That said, though, the most important part of that is that we have just one. The only way to really look at this, as I said in the release, is that this is one more data point that a family, a student, parents, whoever it might be, teachers, can look at and compare with our other screening results that we've already been doing, the formative assessments and some of our baseline screeners, to start developing a picture of where the students currently are, because that's really where we are now with the growth mindset moving forward. How are we going to recoup and make up? And we keep talking about learning loss, but I want to go back to something I said last week. It's not only learning loss, it's incomplete learning. When we went out in March 13th of 2020, there were a lot of kids who had not even finished the year. All of our students did not even finish that year. So it was incomplete learning that year, and then whatever loss may have ensued as a result of that. So it's just really imperative that we realize now we're in a growth mindset going forward from where developing a baseline, moving forward. And the good news is we have a lot of resources at our disposal with Lexia, Achieve 3000, IXL, and others that are there available, and they develop individualized learning paths for students based on their baseline data. So we have an opportunity to grow in our students going forward. And I do want to remind everyone what we've been told is this is going to be about anywhere from a 3 to 5 year recovery period. And that's not including whatever we're going through in the coming months ahead. So it's going to be something we're going to have to all work at, be patient at. And then our students are going to need additional time and resources to help us. That's why we've done a lot of things through the ARP. Putting resources in additional learning time. We'll have some mini grants available for our schools, as I mentioned last week, to look at developing an individualized plan for students in respective schools, because every school has its own unique DNA, as I call it. So they're going to have to develop plans to help shore up and work with kids going forward. So we do have the resources. We've got the funding to help us do a lot of these things, but I want everybody to realize this is not going to be a quick fix. This is an endurance. It's not a sprint. So that's probably the best way to put that going forward. So nothing comparable by these results, but certainly one more data point to use for helping us inform instruction going forward.
I want to ask something. You did a
I'll
very,
call on you, Ms. Chambers, after this.
You did a very good job, in putting everything in context and showing us, just like what Dr. Lewis has said, how we should look at these scores, in terms of all the things that impacted the scores during the pandemic. You talked about the virtual, the attendance, people coming. So, but like Ms. McRae, I also would like to, if you've done it, did you do a comparison group?
We have the data. We did not put it together for a comparison.
Okay, so you haven't done that. Okay.
But we can.
But you can. Okay.
I mean, we can. We didn't because it wasn't going to guide anything for us in terms of planning. So
that's good. I mean, but then if it's not, if it takes a lot of time, I wouldn't. If it's not that much and putting it together, I still would like to see it. Still like Dr. Lewis said, it's just like a data point. I just like to look at stuff, and also, if you say you do have where the scores are separated by the 4.
The state provided that.
The state provided.
Yeah.
Okay. The state provides that. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I like to see that too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Knopf, for that information on the Georgia milestones. As Dr. Lewis alluded to in his comments, I'm not sure how useful this information will be to teachers and to parents when they're trying to plan for instruction or to figure out where the learning losses are, or even if the kids have made gains in certain areas. So I was wondering, could you explain how are we communicating to our teachers how they're supposed to use this information in order to fill in the gaps for individual students? Or are they going to use this information at all in order to do that? How do we make sure that these individual students are actually making some gains in the right areas?
Well, I think I would go back to what Dr. Lewis said, which is looking at all of the data points that we have just from ending the year, and then all of the data points that we're looking at now. One of the things we conveyed to building leaders with this was that it needs to be looked at an individual student level in context of that student score history. Beyond that, I don't think that I would use it to make any determinations of necessarily learning loss or anything else, because again, for some students, to some degree, this might have been Well, I think for all of us, it was done under duress. But I mean, I think we have a lot of data available to make those determinations, and already we're making those determinations along the way before we even sat down for the test. We knew which students were struggling. We knew which ones we felt comfortable about where they were, and honestly, I don't think any of us are 100% comfortable about where any of them are. We want them all to do better.
Well, I might also point out, if I may point out too, that's another reason why in-person instruction is so important, getting the students back in school so we can give those screening assessments and our formative assessments to start developing that profile of the students so we know exactly where this is just one element, one data point. But those others can help kind of shape the full picture. It's kind of like a mosaic. This is one tile in the mosaic. There are others that help us kind of form the picture about where we are and where we need to go.
I was just going to go back to make a comment on something that Ms. Chambers said, and that will be teachers can use this information for individual students. Now, they may not be able to, and like you said, make overwhelming generalizations about students as a whole, but teachers would find this information valuable because they, just like Dr. Lewis said, it's just one data point, and they have other stuff, and so they can put it in context with what they have and find it quite useful.
All right, thank you everyone for the input. Thank you, Dr. Nall.
Thank y'all.
All right, board members, we're moving into our action agenda. 5.01 is the re-election of certified personnel for the upcoming school year, and board members who have a need to abstain, please remember to do so.
Madam Chair, I need to abstain from voting because of 2 family members in the school district.
All right, need a motion, please.
I'd like to move for approval.
Motion.
Except, do we need to put except for all those two?
Well, no, he's going to abstain.
Oh, okay, we're going to vote 2 times, okay. All right.
All right, so we have a motion by Ms. Williams, second by Ms. Jackson. Are there any questions? All right, we're voting electronically. You're ready to vote now. There's an abstention button. Ms. Chambers?
Yes, ma'am, I believe I voted.
You did, all right.
Oh. I did.
We got it. Thank you. All right, that passes. 5.
Now, don't we have to vote for Mr. Cantrell's? No, it's just.
He just abstained. He didn't pull it out.
Okay, so we're not approving his.
We did. It passed.
He just abstained.
Okay.
It's just an easier way to do it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We did it twice. Yeah, it's just the thing, we have done it twice.
5.02, Superintendent is recommending the appointment of Alicia Lawrence to serve as Director of Communications.
I make a motion.
I'd like to move to approve. Kia
right.
Chambers.
Motion by Ms. Chambers, second by Mr. Cantrell. Any questions? We're ready to vote now. All right, that passes. Ms. Lawrence? The machine is just a delay. There was no hesitation up here.
That's kind of a dramatic entrance. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alicia Lawrence. I have the distinct pleasure of coming before you tonight to accept this distinguished role of Director of Communications for Muscogee County School District. As you have seen from my background at TSIS and AFLAC, I have served this community very well in the communications sector, as well as on the United Way panel, and any other thing I can get my hands in this city. But I am most pleased to be able to serve our students of this city. I come from a low-income family in Chambers County, right down the road where I graduated, And it is so important to me, having a mom who was a teacher for over 20 plus years, to be able to serve in a school district and give back to where students can actually be recognized, that we can support and do all these amazing things for our students, and to be able to be in a position to show what the district is doing, like things where those students were up here tonight that are now EMS trained, for our little scholars who were able to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm excited to be able to come in and make sure that we are able to really celebrate those moments and not just have things be out in there in the public's eye. That's not always good. So I want to thank all of my mentors at AFLAC, at TSIS, especially Pino Davis, who really poured into me during my last role. And I'm excited. I'm so excited to join you guys. And thank you to my husband, who is graciously over there recording me, who is my backbone, my rock, my 2 children who are at home right this minute. I'm sure they are watching. And to all of my family, I just appreciate you all for your support. And I look forward to getting rocking and rolling next week with all of you and all of your support in this room as well.
We are all excited. Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard. We've been winging it, so jump right on in. Perfect timing. All right, next on the agenda is 5.03. That's policy Gbia, teacher evaluation appeals. That was a motion by Ms. Williams, second by Ms. Buckner. Are there any questions? It has been on the table for 30 days. And so we are ready to vote now. See, Ms. Lawrence, that wasn't just you. It's all right, that passes. It is a dramatic pause. 5.04. Superintendent is recommending the approval of policy GARH, employee leave of absence. Motion by Ms. Buckner, second by Ms. Jackson. Are there any questions? We are ready to vote now. And this has also been on the table for 30 days.
And while we're voting, Mrs. Green, I'd like to make sure that the public knows we have discussed these items thoroughly at our work session, and we're not just moving swiftly through these items without voting, without discussing. We take our business very important. We think our business is very important, and we vet it thoroughly.
Thank you, Ms. Buckner. We always appreciate that disclaimer because we can move a little fast, and that motion passes. 5.05 is policy GAE, complaints and grievances. Motion. Well, the administration is also asking that we waive the 30-day requirement.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. And typically that will happen if it's something that's already passed, if we're adopting something from the DOE or GSBA. And so this is one of those cases, but it's a policy for complaints and grievances, and we are ready to vote on it this evening. Did we motion? I did. Motion by Ms. Buckner and second by Ms. Jackson. Is this the one? Yes. Okay. She said she'll take it. Are there any other questions? We're ready to vote now. All right, that passes. And 5.06 will come back to us in September. And that review is for policy FE, facilities project planning. Next is 5.07. It's Clubview Elementary after school program. Motion by Mr. Cantrell, second by Ms. Jackson. And then the board requested some
Follow-up
additional
information.
information and some updates.
Right. Ms. Lawson or whomever is going to talk about that piece. There was some question about the program revision of the surveys and so on that you've already done. Yeah.
And of course, she sent us some information over the email.
It was some information that was sent, but it still had 36 max on there,
Okay.
which was the concern.
Maybe I missed it, if I did, excuse me, my bad.
Sure.
I didn't see the survey response.
Hit your microphone.
No, she had a.
I was just looking for the survey response, and if I missed it, I'm sorry, but was it sent?
Yes,
that-
ma'am. I did not send it directly to you
Okay.
through Mr. Bell and Dr. Lewis. That would have come to you.
Yeah.
And
I
it's a
sent that
two-page
last-
document
Whenever it was.
that explains the
I'll find
rewrite of the section. Includes the survey interest that was developed with a copy of that went home. What ways that was communicated to our stakeholders at Clubview, to our families. The collection of numbers through Friday.
You sent it in an email?
And the conclusions that we drew from that collection of evidence and of the survey results. And then, of course, how we would proceed with your approval tonight.
Did you, just
Hit your microphone.
right offhand, do you have that, I saw you with some paperwork.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have that total collection? Because we're looking for it.
Typically, it's attached on the agenda item, and
She sent it to Dr. Lewis, I think, or.
If you could tell us kind of a summary of what the survey results were.
Yes.
Just-
And forgive me, without the
think you s-
reading glasses, I may need to use my camera to make this a little larger, and that's okay. But our survey results came in as of Friday. We had collected 346 total surveys. We have about an average enrollment of 550 from the beginning of the year to where we are now, although we had some more babies get to return today that had to stay home from the beginning. Of those, the Friday document included 258 that were straight, no interest, not needed. In that report, I also broke it down by the survey categories that the families could respond to, that they already had private care. That was 25 of the 258 no's. They were not interested in that scheduling or fees may be a concern. That was 31 of the 258. That their family just had no need at all of any care. That was 202 of the 258. There was a write-in area in case I did not cover a need that family may have or something that they just wanted to openly express. And the majority of that was pandemic concerns, and that they have their children there, but they want to get them home as soon as possible, get that mask off of them and go on with their day. And of course, others have sports, various sports, whether that's Little League, dance, gymnastics, whatever. So those were the things they had quoted there, added in. Interested enrollment, as of Friday, we had 88 families, or 88 students accounted for with an interest in enrollment, without any comment whatsoever, just that yes, they would be interested. That was 67 of the 88. 6 of the 88 indicated an interest, because that's what it was, an interest survey, not will you commit to, but an interest. 6 of those had interest and already have care in place, but they said that they would consider swapping. They may just wait out and see, to consider changing to in-house instead. 7 of those same 88 want to participate in a part-time capacity. So whether that is a drop-in service, so on the days that the family needs care, they would want to come. And 3 of the 88
indicated that they are interested, but that scheduling or fees might be something for them to consider when they go down to that final decision. I did receive extra survey responses today, 22 of whom indicated no interest, and an additional 2 who indicated they were interested.
Okay, so then you have nearly 90 who are interested, and so I still don't understand the cap at 36, and I would be more comfortable and we would be consistent with the other programs if we're going to strike through the 36 so we can move on and you all can get started with the program. The concern is excluding parents who have a need for the aftercare program instead of making it like some kind of little club of just 36 kids.
Okay, so, I mean, the original way it was written, a minimum of 36 full-time students must be enrolled to maintain the operation of the program. The program max will begin at 36. The administrative team will monitor the enrollment, interest, and after-school enrichment program budget to determine possible growth of the program. So that's the original, writing that you, in some capacity of a board member asked, can we rewrite that to say that we're going to grow? We specifically were concerned about the cap at 36. Right, and it does say begin. The rewrite would be, in order to operate as described, a minimum of 30 students must be enrolled. The program max will begin at 36 and will increase as the enrollment, interest, and capacity of the program to safely accommodate more students is alive. So, Ms. Lawson, the administrative team will continually monitor the enrollment, interest, and after-school enrichment program budget to grow the program to serve all possible Clubviews who express interest. So, Ms. Lawson, then, so when you actively recruit or ask parents and 40 show up, you got to develop a criteria now. Correct. And we also asked about that. Who are going to be the 36? How are you going to determine who you're not going to let in? And that Friday as well, that with, and let's see, that's about the survey. The last paragraph of that response. Did all the board members find their email? I sent it Friday, 3:46. Okay. So to be clear, bottom line is if you have 70 students that want to be in the program, they can enroll in the program, and then we'll go forward with hiring additional staff. Is that what you're saying? That's what it'll take. Okay.
Yes, sir. If I could add one thing.
Right here. Let's let Mr. Bell.
We simply didn't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So if we can hire 2 more, we didn't want to start recruiting yet. We can accommodate 72. The 36, we're limited to the 1:18 ratio.
So but what we're asking is, how are you going to determine who the 36 of the 72 or 80 that have?
If you approve this tonight, we can cast our net district-wide to find more interested employees.
Now
so
she's
then remove the language. Then remove the cap at 36 so we can move on.
But no, I'm asking what is the criteria that you're going to use to select the 36 students?
Yes, in the presentation that we sent, family lottery system. And that's to begin the program. We would up our recruiting efforts to find employees who are willing to work the 15 hours extra each week. We can target other schools, other departments. And, we can't guarantee that we're going to find anybody, but without approval, we don't have a chance.
Ms. Chambers?
No, sir.
Yeah, I was just, I have a concern with changing or increasing the number if you do not have appropriate personnel to cover those students. And if you end up with an after-school program and the ratio is 30 kids to 1 teacher, you're going to have a hard time getting teachers who want to enroll to work in the after-school program. I've worked off after-school programs before, and the after-school programs are more beneficial when you have a smaller number of students. So my concern with saying, okay, we'll take 80 students is how many. I thought the presentation said there were only 4 teachers that had committed to work in the program. And so I want to make sure that we're not having, 30, 40 kids and 1 teacher. And then I understand what Mr. Bell is saying about growing the program. Once you first got to have 36 that commit. And so it was my understanding that they wanted the board to approve for them to go ahead and start advertising to offer this program, and then try to get at least 36. And I do understand it says 36 is the cap. But I'm not sure if they don't have the personnel that we should approve 80 kids. So that's I don't know, Mr. Bell, you can, or Ms. Lawson, you can speak to that. I just thought we had a small number of teachers who were going to participate in the program.
That's correct. We have a commitment for 36 students at the moment if we started today.
May I say something? Am I, who's next?
I think Ms. Butler.
Okay, now, here's what happened, and what's happening with this program is that, like I said, it started with a certain framework. The framework was that we're going to have teachers who are already certified to do this program. So since we are only using certified teachers, then therefore our capacity our capacity for students is limited because we got to make our budget. Ordinarily, on an after-school program, teachers tend to be paid a lower amount of money, maybe $15 or $20 an hour. So when you pay teachers a smaller amount, you can recruit more teachers, and your program can be bigger. A few minutes ago, Mr. Bell, y'all was saying that you were going to monitor the interest as time goes on, but at the very beginning, the interest is already at 90. It was at the first enrollment was 88, and then you received something on Monday. You got an additional 2, so your interest is already at 90. So monitoring for next year for a higher capacity, your capacity already is 90. So the framework is the problem here, because you can't hire more teachers with this, what you have developed in your framework. You can't hire because of the budget. You are limited, your student number is limited because of that. So if you go on with, maybe you can change the framework on next year. But as it is right now, you are restricted to a small number of students because of your framework. As I said on last week, you started with, as I say, the survey was not done to determine the need, to determine how many students needed this. And we kind of went a little bit backwards, But at this point, I don't know how far you in with what you've told your parents, but some maybe going forward for next year, but right now, it seems to me if you're going to have more students, your framework has to be changed to for a larger capacity of students. And you may not be willing to do that. I don't know, you may want to do it for next year. You may not be willing to do that. Now, what you have now, I do want to go back to say, I love what you have, you're having outside people come in. It's just ideal. It's very, very good. But you'll only be able to serve a small number of students.
Okay, I'm going to support this because of what I'm hearing from both of you, and I believe your heart is in the right place here, but you feel constrained by the number of workers who have agreed, and that is what's limiting your initial class, whatever. Hearing you say you're going to cast the net large and wide to see if we can pull in more individuals that would want to participate in order to grow the capacity, which would then adjust your budget, which we would then hear. I don't believe what I'm hearing is that 36 is it for this year and we'll see what happens next year, because I am concerned about the perception of it being an exclusive little club for a special group of children, and that's problematic. So I am going to support this, but I would like follow-up next month or 6 weeks, whenever you think appropriate, on what the response has been, who you've been able to recruit, how you've been able to grow the program. I agree with Ms. Buckner. You have your market study now. You have 90 students that may be interested, but I can guarantee you they're not all going to show up and be willing to pay. But I also can guarantee you more than 36 would like to have the opportunity. So I would like to hear back on what the results of your efforts are to recruit additional individuals to help grow the program to accommodate your market demand.
I agree.
And very eloquently.
I'd like to just say something about what Ms. Williams said. Now, she said you have 90 students that may be interested. According to the survey, she has 90 parents that are interested. So I just want to correct that. They are already interested. And what, as you go for next year, is the budget. If you have, a lot of times, if you have more students, then the cost of the cost per parent, the cost could, that $85 could be, that amount can come down. You know, of course you are paying certified teachers, you know. I'm just saying, all of that has to be reevaluated. That's what I'm saying. And you know, you've done so much work on this, you know. You've done a lot of work, and I can tell you've done a lot of work, and you went back and you did the surveys. And so I just hate to vote against it, because you've done all this work, and hopefully on next year, like I said, to me, it's the framework. You know, if you change the framework, the cost can come down and make it, you know, more people can be able to be a part of the program. And of course, you'll be able to get more teachers. You know, it may not be the same work as the same way that you have the program, but you have a need already. So I think we should go from that.
I did think of something else. One, two, and you mentioned this in your email, but just so we say it out loud tonight, is that there will be follow-up done with those 31 that said that they were not interested due to fees, because we do know it's a rather expensive program to make sure that that's not, you know, that if some help can be given in fees if they want to avail themselves. And then from a purely us, the one that is attached does not have the new language in it, so we will need to amend the motion to include the language as she put it in our email. This one's still.
That's just an attachment. We didn't.
Oh, so it doesn't matter. So but just to be clear, we are approving it with the language she put in her email that says starting at 36, no max.
The max is.
Can I make one more comment too?
Right.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes, I'd just like to make a comment about how the 36 will be selected. A first come, first serve seems to be fair, so that you don't have a problem with, Williams mentioned it being like an elite club. I would not want a kid to be left out because of that. But I do think that the number is good, if that makes sense.
Mr. Bell, didn't you just tell us how that was going to be done?
Yes, ma'am. Family lottery system.
Yeah, the family, I think that's good. Yeah, you did tell us that.
Perfect.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so but the lottery still, that is still a fair process. We do that for pre-K and things of that nature. I just didn't want 36 with no, criteria works as well. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I do want to, go ahead, Mr. Cantrell. I was going to take the vote. Go ahead, Mr. Cantrell.
Ms. Lawson, when they're doing the lottery, if you have 80 of them now, are you then going to pull from the 80 names that you have, I assume, or do you have 36 that's guaranteed right now, or it looks like you might end up having 40, 50, 60, 70, will you pull from, give them all a chance where it falls into lottery within a certain amount of time here?
Yes, sir. The interest survey that went out was only an interest survey, not meant to be enrollment, because I'm not enrolling kids without your approval. And the window will be published as a 1-week window, so that the family who has the capacity to get in the car and drive it to me has the same, as the family who can't. They've got to wait until they can get to the school to turn that in. So we're doing a 1-week collection window with no money attached, only registration packets. I'll attach families to families, siblings to siblings, so that it's a family lottery. I'm not serving one without the other two, because how did that help the family? And then we'll go lottery process and put them in order. It's much like we've done over the past. We have a waiting list in every grade level to get into Clubview every year. And so it's a lottery process. I can, as Mr. Bell alluded, I can start tomorrow, Wednesday now, with 36. I could make that happen that day. But even with this window, it gives me time that I may be able to start with that increased number even on September 7th. There is no timeline of that, and there is no wait for a year to determine that. As educators, that's what we do all the time, is continually monitor and continue to fill the need. When you do have time to read the Friday information, I do want you to note that there's a boost grant that's available for exactly this type of activity, so that I can help fund some families who are unable to fully fund themselves or fund themselves at all. And I'm seeking that as well to answer that. So when you do have time.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson. We appreciate you responding to our request. And thank you for pointing out the email that was sent out on Friday. We will update this information. It is an attachment on the agenda, so the language, but I'll read it just into the record. And it says that a minimum of 30 full-time students must be enrolled to maintain the operation of the program, and the program max will begin at 36. And the administrative team will monitor the enrollment interest as the ASEP budget to determine the possible growth of the program. And that is important because for the Board of Education for public school, it is important that we not set any kind of precedent or any appearance that we are leaving any children out or excluding any student from participating in a program, including if their family's income doesn't allow it. So I am delighted that you are pursuing the Boost Grant to assist those families who need the after-school program. As you have determined through your survey, there is a need beyond the 36, and you are responding to that to help our families. And that's what's important to the board, that everything that we do is centered on the needs of children and the families that we serve, all of them, not just some of them. Because at the beginning, it looked like it was something that was created for our community partners to have a captive audience, and we don't do that in the school system. We want to make sure that such wonderful programming that you are going to embark on is available for all of our students, as many as who choose to participate. So thank you for your effort, and thank your team.
Thank you so much. And I am sorry, I could walk away from this podium easily and let you go ahead, but you just read the original wording. And did you want it to be the new wording versus
I want the new
original?
I want the new wording, and I can't see with the glasses on or off.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
So go ahead and read it into the record for me.
And you want it to be the updated, not
Yes,
what
ma'am.
you just read? So in order to operate as described, a minimum of 30 full-time students must be enrolled. The program max will begin at 36 and will increase as the enrollment, interest, and capacity of the program to safely accommodate more students is aligned. The administrative team will continually monitor the enrollment, interest, and after-school enrichment program budget to grow the program to serve all possible Clubview families who express interest.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we're ready to vote now.
Thank you again, Ms. Thank you. And I'm looking for that email. I still can't find it, but I really do, because see, if you take the time to send us all emails, we need to read them, and that's why that's why I didn't see mine, and I appreciate that.
Don't forget to vote, you all.
You voted already? Did you vote? Okay.
All right, that passes. Congratulations to Clubview. 5.08 is the Veterans Memorial Middle School renovations. Motion by Ms. Williams, second by Mr. Cantrell. Are there any questions? We're ready to vote now. That passes. 5.09 is the weight room expansion for Northside High School. Motion by Ms. Williams, second.
Second.
By Ms. Chambers. Any questions or discussion? You're ready to vote now? All right, that passes. Last item on the action agenda is 5.10, the parking lot project at Jordan Vocational High School. Motion by Mr. Cantrell, second by Dr. Sly. Are there any questions or comments? We're ready to vote now. All right, that motion passes. Up next is our consent agenda. Motion by Ms. Williams, second by Ms. Buckner. Are there any questions or discussions? Ms. Buckner's disclaimer also applies here.
So grateful to our.
Well, I was just getting ready to say how much we appreciate all our donors, individuals, clubs, corporations, small businesses, teachers, principals who every month step up to support public education with their donations and contributions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. We are ready to vote now. All right, consent agenda passes, and the superintendent has remarks and then any requests or questions.
Yes. It's kind of a bittersweet announcement. I know for him, he's looking forward to enjoying retirement, but for us, we are going to be missing Mr. Dave Goldberg, who has been serving as our Chief Operations Officer for the last 6.5 years. As all of you know, Mr. Goldberg has been a tremendous asset to the school district and someone I've really come to rely upon and I respect highly for all that he has brought to our school district in terms of knowledge, as well as commitment to students and our entire system. He has successfully completed all the 2015 eSPLOST that were charged under his administration, as well as begun the initial planning for all the 2020 eSPLOST projects. Perhaps one of the most important things is he has really developed and enhanced the relationships with internal and external stakeholders throughout our school system and throughout our community. And he has instilled a culture of customer service within all the departments that he supervises that I have come to really appreciate and is certainly part of our vision for creating that culture of we. And I just want to take this opportunity to personally thank and commend Mr. Goldberg on a job well done. You will indeed be missed, and I thank you.
You have a word, Mr. Goldberg? Are you walking to the podium?
Have we met?
Somebody was passing tissue.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. I appreciate those kind words. First of all, to Dr. Lewis, you are a man of integrity, someone who believes in public schooling like I do. And I appreciate that so much. Your leadership style is perfect for me. You have let me be me and do things my way, which is very difficult as a leader. I understand that. I can be difficult, I understand.
Cue Frank Sinatra right
now. And I do appreciate that. To the cabinet, you guys have been my colleagues, my friends, my mentors. I rely on you guys for an awful lot, and I appreciate what you guys do. I don't know, people around outside our little world don't really understand what goes on with us in the cabinet and how we work and the way we come to our decisions, but it is because we're a team. And we argue and we fight like family, but when we come out, we know we've made the right decisions. I appreciate your honesty and your integrity so much. It really goes a long way. It makes coming to work every day a joy and a pleasure to work with such great people. To the board, you know, I remember my first board meeting. It wasn't quite as easy as this one. You folks who were here, you all remember. So you got away easy. I would just tell you. But the board, y'all have been very, very supportive to me. We have come a long way. We've got a lot of things done. And I feel like I've been supported most of the way. And, you know, with just about all of the tough decisions, we've made a lot of hard decisions. We've made a lot of organizational changes that have been difficult. And some of those things are hard to swallow because they had to be done. But you guys have supported us in the decisions we made. And supported me, Ms. Green. We haven't always seen eye to eye, but one thing we both agree on is public education and the children. When you call me and you ask me for something, you need something done,
you always deliver.
I know that you have been in the schools and you know what you're talking about and you are actively involved in what's going on with us in the community and the students at the schools, and I appreciate that out of our board chair tremendously. So thank you very much, Ms. Green, for that. To my directors and my team, you know how I feel about you and what we have. Number one rule, don't screw up a free lunch. Number one rule, right? Number two rule is never apologize for having a good time. And number three rule is hope is not a strategy. So we try not to just hope our way through things. It's the way we run our lives and operations, and we do not apologize for all the fun we have.
Yeah,
but
y'all
we
can
work-
have some
we
fun.
work very, very hard too. Thank you, board. Thank you, community. Thank you, Columbus. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it very, very much.
Mr. Goldberg, that sounds like you're going to come back 49%.
I have
That's a smile walking away.
Smile's just a little bit too big, but I do want to say, on behalf of the parents, and there are some in this room as well who wanted me to make a point of saying thank you from the parents, because you have handled logistics during one of the most difficult period of time that we've had to go through. You handled our buildings during one of the most difficult times that we've ever been through. And I just have to say, when you came on, you handled transportation, which was a nightmare, beautifully. And you brought us through all of these really valleys in the process and brought us out. And I appreciate you. You're going to be a hard act to follow. I can tell you that. He's got his hands full with trying to find somebody who can step into your shoes. Thank you so much from myself and parents.
Thank you, Dr. Goldberg, as a lot of people often call you when they're up to the podium. No, you don't get a raise for it, but it's always nice to hear. For always responding to the needs at the schools, and those principals are all appreciative, and how you make the buildings look, because it's been great. Been watching a great transformation occur under your leadership, so thank you.
Before before Kathy made her comment about that transportation, I had totally forgot about that. That was a big mess, so. But we got past that. But I kind of think of you a lot of times, I guess it goes on with Dr. Lewis, but kind of like the good guy. Because when you come up, you're always showing what we've done at the schools. Every month when you go in, and I like that, because I always say, and we'll continue to say, that what we've done in construction, what we've done at all these schools, keeping the schools up, and all the additions, and beautifying our schools, that has done more for relationships in Columbus, Georgia, in what we have traditionally called our north and our south divide. As we drive around to all the schools all over the district, we see nice buildings everywhere. We see athletic fields done well everywhere. And so what we had just a few years ago, it was always some controversy. It was always the talk of the North and the South divide. Always some sense of unfairness, but it's very interesting how even sports and how people can walk in their homes or in their buildings and feel good about the buildings that they come to learn in. And so that's how I will always remember you standing, showing us our buildings, and somewhat as the good guy.
Ms. McGray?
I was going to say, you were here when I got here, so I missed the whole first meeting. But I will just say that from the beginning, I have known that there was a countdown to your retirement, because I know you want to be closer to your daughter. And we're just very grateful for all that you have done. And you worked hard until the last minute. And we're also glad to know that COVID was not the reason that we didn't do you in this past year. But we just want to wish you the best.
So how many days I have left? 15 days? Okay. All right. Board, do you have anything, any requests?
Just a motion for.
Well, I do want one thing for Dr. Lewis to consider to bring back to us. We're back in school where we should be, and we're having to quarantine, which also include our personnel, and they're having to use their sick days. And I know y'all are getting phone calls like I am about having to use their sick days. If you would look into see whatever we did, it probably was some of the federal funding that allowed for us to pay them instead of them using their sick days, as well as new employees who haven't earned any sick days who are having to quarantine. So I want you to come back to us and let us know how we're taking care of our employees when it comes to having to quarantine or be out sick with COVID. Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. We have an executive session for a personnel matter. There was a motion by Ms. Buckner. Second by Ms. Chambers. Raise your hand. Good night, everyone.
Are you just gonna call